Hello everybody, Thomas and Brian here for yet another edition of our live Q&A, Aquatics Q&A, where we have our Aquatics Enthusiast Thomas here to answer pretty much any questions aquatics related or otherwise, preferably aquatics related so that everyone can enjoy it. But he's here for your viewing pleasure, your answering pleasure. He's going to answer everything he can, aren't you?
I'm gonna try.
He's gonna try.
I'm gonna try to answer them questions.
With that said, a lot of the time people will come to these live Q&As that we do, and they'll have like a very, very specific question, specific to their fish, without much context. He's gonna try his best. If you guys do have questions like that related to your individual pet, he's gonna try his best to give you advice. But we do have a specific support system that we will refer you to for more in-depth.
Yeah, like if it has to do with fish illness and stuff and you're asking questions about your fish and how to treat the problem, there are a series of questions I would have to ask and vice versa to drill down to what the actual cause is, how to make sure we've got a correct diagnosis, to try to treat that, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So we need a discourse for that. So if you're going to ask that kind of question, I'll probably, deflect to something to get you on the right track, not necessarily the answer you're looking for, and then suggest that you contact us through support so that we can get you all of the information that you're going to need to tackle the problem.
Yeah, so quick disclaimer there, but otherwise ask away. Anything you guys got, throw our way. I'll ask this guy and he'll do his absolute best. Anything else that we need to say? Oh, we had a new high-tech planted tank episode come out this week.
We did!
So if you guys haven't been following that, if you're new to the channel and you're not really sure what kind of stuff we do, check that one out. That's a new one. It's a new series Thomas is doing. We did the low-tech planted one. Now we're doing the high-tech one. So a new one dropped this week. Another one in the next week or two. I guess next week. I don't know. We'll figure out the schedule here.
Absolutely.
Yes, but make sure you go check that stuff out. React videos. I know you guys are. We're up to like 600 submissions now.
I was gonna say we have so many.
It's just so many, which is awesome. Really,
we can make a whole separate channel just on that.
Yeah,
and still never run out.
Seriously, yeah. So if you haven't seen our React videos yet, go do that. I'll link that stuff to you as well. But for now, stick around. We're going to answer your questions. I say, let's just get right into it. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I have one more thing to say. Some of you might notice that today I didn't bring donuts.
Yes.
But I am not at fault, for Brian has decided to let me off the hook so that he doesn't have a heart attack at the ripe age of 35.
Yeah, that was my call. I loved it. Donuts for Brian was a huge success. Thank you guys for your support in getting me all those donuts. But after the last stream, he left, and you ate like, I think, 1 or 2 donuts.
Oh yeah,
like
maybe 1 or 2.
So we had like 8 or 9 donuts by the end of it left over, and I got 2 little kids, like 1 and 3. Like, I'm not going to feed them a bunch of donuts. So my wife didn't want them. So I had like 8 donuts that I'm not going to throw out. And it's just, I lost a lot of weight last year, and I don't want to gain it back.
You look great, brother.
Thanks,
I was actually
man.
looking at photos of you just on your Instagram and stuff, and I was like, damn! Yeah, you came a long way.
I lost like 34 pounds through good old-fashioned diet and exercise.
If you want to see the difference, go watch the very first episode of the Mega Build, and you will see previous Brian compared to today Brian. Like, it's a big difference.
Yeah,
like, I'm proud of you, man.
Thanks, dude. So
if I could gain the weight that you lost, I would be
just
raw. I'd be awesome.
Okay, so start bringing donuts, but just for you, and you eat them.
I will just not get any bigger and just die of a heart attack at 35.
Yeah, and then I'll see the donuts, not be able to eat them, and resent you. It'll be a mess. Okay, cool. So yes, no donuts for Brian anymore. Thank you guys, though. But I did see someone trying to start the tacos for Thomas thing.
Oh, I'll take it. Yeah. And you know what? Brian has a wife who should be able to smash some good tacos.
Yeah. My wife is legit Mexican, and she makes really good. She makes some good tacos.
I've had some of her food, and it's incredible.
It's great. So I didn't want to miss. Someone mentioned it last stream.
Tacos for Thomas.
Yeah, it came up last stream, and I thought I'm just going to glaze over this. I'm just going to not, because I didn't want to get into the habit of my wife having to make tacos every time.
No, just one time.
Just one time. So I think we might do that. So thank you for the suggestion there, by the way. That's from Just In Case. Thanks for that. We'll do it. We'll give it a shot.
Yay!
Okay, anyway, let's get into the questions now. First question is from John B., who is a regular here. Shows up to pretty much all of our streams. Hey, Thomas and Brian, I've just noticed a pimple-like looking lump on the top of one of my angelfish. It's on his head. It wasn't there yesterday. It's red around the white spot. Could you help? Fish puberty or what?
Giant zit?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's hard to say, especially without a photo, but I have seen fish develop cysts. So it's possible it could be a cyst. I mean, that'd be a very quick cyst to develop. But I'm not entirely sure. But if you send a photo, let's start off with the support.
Yes, all right.
If you send a photo with, to our support, just give us your parameters. The last time you tested, you know, the basics, ammonia, if there is any, nitrate, pH, stuff like that, and just any other tank mates that are in the tank, and again, a photo of it, and we'll see what we can figure out.
Yeah, he said he's got it quarantined right now, which I guess is
that's not a bad decision. And kudos for actually having a quarantine tank, John B. You're on the right track.
Legit, that is the right thing to. Again, I'm not a fish keeper myself, but what I've learned in the last 4 years at this company, like one of the most important things, quarantine your fish.
Quarantine. Yeah, no,
super
it's
important.
For exactly this reason. Having a hospital tank or a quarantine tank is paramount to success, especially if you're going to have a bunch of fish.
Yeah, and even the zip thing turns out to be nothing harmful.
Oh, yeah.
It's still good practice, right?
Yes,
like
100%.
When in doubt, quarantine.
Exactly.
Cool. Next up, I have always kept big tanks. Now I decided to buy a small 15-gallon one.
Ooh.
I tested pH and it's fine. All my baby mollies are dying. I have 1 guppy and 3 neons living in there for 5 months. I'm planning to try putting a walking catfish or crayfish to see if they are okay. They will stay in there for like 5 days only. Can the gravel affect the fish that stay at the bottom?
Okay. Babyfish tend to be more sensitive to changes in water parameters and temperature and all kinds of stuff like that than subadult or adult fish. We're talking that are already, you know, in the hobby, living in tanks, not necessarily wild caught fish coming in or anything like that. That's a whole other story. But if you took a whole bunch of very, very small fry and took them from one tank where there was one set of parameters and dropped them in another tank where there's a completely different set of parameters, or parameters that could be different, especially if it's something like temperature or pH, that could definitely affect them negatively. The other red flag that I see is that baby fish, if they're fry, like they're still tiny, they tend to get picked on by larger fish because baby fish are always food to something bigger. Not saying that neons would necessarily go after them, but if it's an adult male guppy, he might. I mean, it's not that common, but it's possible. So I would also just make sure that there's no aggression going on, but you've got to look at what changed. What's the difference? Because if the water parameters, if there is no ammonia in the tank, if you've tested there's no ammonia and you've tested and there's low nitrate, it's not super high, and no nitrite, obviously, then there's got to be something else that's causing the die-off. Are they starving to death? Are you crushing up flake food for them? Are they getting a chance to eat? Are you witnessing them eating? Are they behaving normally? And the other thing is, just because your neons and your guppy are doing okay, doesn't mean there isn't sky-high nitrates. Like maybe it's not affecting the neon and the guppy negatively because it's crept up very slowly over time for them. You could have nitrates around 40 or 60, let's say, but they've adapted to it. You should still do a water change very soon if that's the case. But if you take fish that came from water with very low nitrate and drop them into this tank that has a lot of nitrate, then that could obviously be an issue as well. But yeah, you got to do some digging. There's no clear-cut answer. And if you're getting stuck, get all those parameters we just talked about, email support, and we'll help you through it.
Yeah, I've linked the support email in the chat, so you can definitely link up with them and get a little more info on that if need be. Next up, and I'm trying to find the YouTube video link for this, but I'm planning to start a saltwater aquarium. Any tips?
Slow and steady wins the race. Depends what you want to do with your saltwater aquarium. If you're just like, I want to keep a pair of clownfish and see what it's like to keep a saltwater tank, then the only real advice I have is watch our video series and just master the skill, which is honestly very easy, of preparing saltwater to a specific salinity or specific gravity. So it's just the only real difference is the skill of mixing synthetic sea salt into fresh water and creating salt water for the aquarium. That's really the only big thing. I mean, there's lots of other things you need to know. Like for one, when you set up the tank and there's no fish or anything in it, you can obviously put the water in the tank and then add the salt directly to the tank and mix it up in there with power heads. But once the tank's established and, you know, there's fish in it, you always have to premix your salt water in a bucket and then add it premixed. You don't ever want to add fresh water to the tank and then dump salt in. So that to me seems very obvious, but sometimes beginners or somebody getting into saltwater, although it seems like a practical thing or common knowledge. It really isn't.
You might not realize the implications that it has.
Yeah, so people don't always understand what might happen if they do it that way. So there's going to be little things like that you probably have questions about. But yeah, I mean, really the only new skill is adding salt to the water before you do water changes and stuff. Beyond that, it's all the same equipment. With the addition of maybe a protein skimmer if you're going to get into a heavily stocked aquarium, or if you're going to go down the road of corals. And if you're going to go for corals, then I'd also suggest some sort of live rock, whether it's man-made base rock or live rock. Like my favorite that I use often actually is Carib Sea Life Rock. I think it's great stuff. Starts out looking good. Every time I've used it, I've never had like massive algae outbreaks in the beginning. I've never had issues with, you know, the tank not getting established in a short period of time. I'm getting all confused. It's been a long morning, let me tell you.
We both have tiny little kids who exhaust us. So
yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, with that rock, it's seeded with bacteria, so they kind of impregnate it with bacteria. So it always cycles very easily, and because there's no other life form on it that like live rock that's harvested, to die off potentially, you don't end up with crazy nutrient spikes or ammonia spikes. So everything goes pretty smoothly every time I've used that rock. It also has purple on it. It's fake purple, but it looks great to start off, and it grows coralline algae over top of it very quickly in my experience, which I'm a big fan of. But yeah, and then you're going to have to learn about lighting and stuff like that for corals. But we might do a series that shows you all of that sort of stuff sometime in the nearest future possible.
Maybe. Yeah, definitely. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I have linked our series. It's a 4-parter, the how to set up a basic saltwater aquarium.
Yep.
4-parter. I've linked the first episode in the chat, so check that out. You'll learn a lot there. It is important. I want to just mention that that series, we've had people say before, like, oh, this is like, where's the coral? It's fake coral in there. Like, it is a very basic. It's for people like you who want to learn and take that small jump and kind of learn the basics of it before getting too crazy. That's what that is for. So you can learn the basics of taking care of that aquarium and the fish properly. And then as you get better at it and you want to try newer things, you can upgrade and move on to other things. Yeah. So check it out. It'll teach you a lot. This guy's great. In pretty much every other video, you'll enjoy it. So I've linked that for you guys there. I will mention, guys, hit that like button if you can.
Smash it!
Smash it! Smash it! So that way we can have more people joining us here. The more we get, the more people we have on these streams, the more often we're going to be able to do them.
Absolutely.
So the more popular it is, the better for everybody. If I inject CO2 plus liquid fertilizer, can I quit adding root tabs and just do it with fish poop, or does this not work that way?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yay!
Root tabs... The nice thing about root tabs is that if you do not have a substrate that is designed to help pull nutrients from the water and to deliver to your plant's roots, so some sort of porous substrate, whether it's in the form of like dirt, or if it's that porous fracted clay stuff that basically Seachem's fluorite is. Or if you add laterite. If you don't have a substrate that's going to help move nutrients to the roots, a root tab is a great way to help keep nutrients right where the roots are, because a lot of artificial gravels or artificially painted gravel or regular pea gravel, they're so smooth and they're not at all porous as a rock, by comparison anyways, that they don't help really transfer nutrients to the roots of the plants. So that's why where a root tab would become a lot more beneficial. But if you have a planted substrate, then liquid fertilizers on their own along with CO2 is definitely going to be enough. There's no reason why it shouldn't be, because again, those substrates being porous are going to help pull all of that nutrient that you're adding to the water in a liquid fertilizer and kind of hold it where the roots of the plants are. If that makes sense.
Next up, any suggestions on how to give the best care for a female guppy after dropping?
The base?
Did you drop the fish?
Dropping the base, bro. Okay, so one thing that really helps all live bearers, realistically, while they're carrying babies and shortly thereafter, is spirulina flake. It has a lot of nutrients, and it's really good for fish. that are, especially live bears, that are recovering or under a lot of physical stress from something that's going on. So pregnancy is a great one. So I would feed a lot of high quality spirulina flake or pellets, if they'll take pellets, to that guppy, and that'll help kind of, you know, restore any vitality that was lost through the beautiful process of bringing little baby frites into this world. Fries. Frites. Fish fry.
I love it.
Not to be confused with the fish fry, like when you go to an outing.
When you fry the fish and
just make a fish and people eat it.
Yeah.
That's different.
Don't do that with your fish here in your aquarium. Cool. Next up, I've read that putting cuttlefish bone into the tank is good. I guess it means like as good as snail shells. Will it have an effect on water chemistry?
I'm sure it will. Like to a small degree. Cuttlefish bone is very soft. And I've actually used cuttlefish bone for land snails as a calcium supplement. So, I say land snail, terrestrial snails. Like garden snails and stuff, if you were to take a cuttlefish bone and just chuck it in your garden, you will eventually find snails on it. So they'll just probably straight up eat it, is what's going to happen.
Cool.
But yeah, it will probably, it's hard for me to say because I've never done this and I don't know the exact pH at which cuttlefish bone starts to release, you know, carbonate hardness out of itself and into the water, like dissolve. But I would assume that unless your pH is very low in your tank, that it shouldn't dissolve the cuttlefish bone. Shouldn't. But again, I don't know at what pH cuttlefish bones would start to dissolve and then thus raise the carbonate hardness of the water.
Okay.
But they should just straight up eat it.
Cool. We have someone asking things like, where's the best place to buy a 125-gallon aquarium? Where's the best place to
The answer is always Big Als!
If you live in Canada near a Big Als supercenter, for sure. If you live in the States, I mean, we don't sell
I don't know.
big
I hear
aquariums.
Petco's do that like $1 per gallon sale every once in a while. I think it's Petco that does it. And if that's the case, I would always just buy from Petco during their $1 per gallon sales events that they do. I don't know if it translates up to like gigantic tanks, like 125 gallons.
That'd be a deal.
Could you imagine a 265 for $265? It's like $1,000 aquarium.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, but I would say probably because I don't really shop in the States. I live in Canada, but that $1 per gallon sale at Petco sounds sweet. So I would probably do that if I lived in the States. As far as fish goes, the only place I know of to buy fish is for US. In Canada, there's not a lot of places. Very, very few places. Is Live Aquaria. And from what I understand, they got a pretty good rap. So I would check out Live Aquaria if you live in the States. Cool. LiveAquaria.com.
Sweet. Fangirling, even though I'm not a girl.
Yay!
That's hilarious.
That's flattering.
Next up, what is the best way to cure dropsy? What is dropsy?
Dropsy is like, if you've noticed dropsy, you are already way past the point of no return.
Dropsy sounds fun, but it doesn't.
So dropsy is, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't know exactly what causes dropsy, if it's bacterial or it's got to be some kind of internal bacterial thing. Well, long story short, dropsy, by the time you notice it, it's usually a lot of swelling inside of the body of the fish, and it manifests as like a bloated fish with raised scales, so they kind of look like a pine cone. Mm-hmm. If I understand correctly, and I am not a fish health expert, that is like not my deal. I am like more of an equipment and setup and a husbandry expert, as opposed to how to fix problems with sick fish. But that's why we have our awesome fish room, whom I always defer to that staff. So when you email our support, you end up talking to one of our experts that work with fish on a daily basis and medicate and all that stuff. So anyways, long story short, I believe it's the swelling of the organs. There's a lot of organ failure that happens during dropsy, and that's ultimately what kills the fish. I think it may also involve the fish's inability to osmoregulate. Is that the word? I might be making words up. But long story short, I think they also have a failure of being able to regulate the amount of liquid that's in their body.
That's not good.
Yeah, no, it is. Dropsy has by and large just been known as, when you see dropsy and you're like, yeah, that's dropsy, it's a death sentence, which sucks. I have never personally, firsthand, eyewitness, seen anybody's fish recover from dropsy. I've heard people say, yeah, it did, but I don't know if it was dropsy. I never know, because people are just like, I had a fish live from X thing that happened.
Yeah.
But we're always just self-diagnosing our fish based on what we see on the internet or in books or whatever. So I don't know how accurate that always is. I have never seen a fish recover from dropsy. So yeah, it sucks. And I hope that if there is a cure for dropsy, that you figure it out and that it works. And that whatever medication is recommended for dropsy, that it works for you.
Come back to another stream and let us know how that works out. We'd be interested to know for sure. Really update us on that. So, yeah, next up. Hello. So, this was pretty funny. I accidentally swallowed tank water while siphoning last week. Has this ever happened to you? I didn't get sick, but it was pretty gross.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a funny story right after that. Okay, so first off, yeah, I think anybody who has sucked on a siphon hose in their life has gotten either gasoline or tank water into their mouth. It happens. One will get you drunk and sick, and the other will probably do nothing. So, I've gotten tank water in my mouth way more times than I want to think about. I stopped siphoning via my mouth a long time ago, for that exact reason. It's disgusting. It gets even worse with saltwater, because not only did you just get freshwater in your mouth, that's just a little funky.
Yeah.
You get salty, disgusting cesspool coral water in your mouth. It tastes like burnt buttholes. Like, it's not good. Okay, so this is the story I was going to tell you. Years and years and years ago, I was out on a service call. I used to go with a fellow employee. His name's Jake. I'm sure Jake's going to love that I just used his name. I won't give you his last name, so you can't harass him about it on social media. So Jake and I he invited me to help him with a tank install or tear down, or he was changing something out. I don't remember what the heck it was. But, oh, no! I think this time I'm thinking of, I was at his house buying a Eclipse, like 29-gallon saltwater setup from him that he had, or something like that. I could be mixing stories together. But anyways, it was Jake, and he was about to siphon from the tank into a bucket with his mouth. And I was like, Jake, what? Do you ever get water in your mouth doing that? And he's like, no, guy, it never happens. And then immediately sucked a bunch of salt water into his mouth and spat it everywhere. And I'm like,
you jinxed it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, never happens. Oh, never happens ever, except for right now. Anyways, it's funny for me. I love it when people are like, oh, I'm better than that, and then they just choke on it.
That's pretty funny. I'm linking a couple things for you guys off of BigAlsPets.com that you could help you avoid that if you want to not manually.
There are actually, Brian just hooked up some pretty good links there.
Yeah, there's one. I just linked up our pretty basic siphon kit, which is actually on sale right now. Just saying, if you wanted to pick it up, awesome. And I'm gonna link to you the Python No Spill Clean and Fill.
One of the best tools I've ever used.
Yeah, like we also have a video on this as well, which I'll link up. It's showing you how to use it. But essentially, yeah, no more dirty water in your mouth. No
more carrying buckets. No more nothing. I used it on the 265. I'm sure some of you guys will recognize.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we used it in some of our vids.
When you got a tank that big, or you have lots of tanks, that thing is a lifesaver.
Yeah. So I've linked those. Check those out, because yeah, nasty tank water in your mouth is not.
Ain't no good.
No. Ain't nobody got time for that. Can I keep colorful African cichlids in a live plant aquarium?
It's hard. Africans come from extremely high pH water. So not all plants are going to appreciate that. And furthermore, a lot of African cichlids are herbivorous or omnivorous, and they will find your plants to be a delicacy. And they'll just rip stuff apart and uproot them. And so if you're going to try planting a tank with Africans, what people usually use is very inexpensive plants that do not need to be buried in the substrate, since Africans were going to move that around anyways and just uproot all your plants. So you could attach things like Java fern. Java moss might be okay, but Java fern and anubius to rockwork or hardscape in the aquarium. So that they're less likely to rip that all apart. And anubius tend to fare pretty well because they have very rigid, hard to eat leaves. So they're not very palatable to herbivorous fish.
Right.
Sometimes I like nail an answer in my head and I don't have to go on tangents, and then Brian gets confused.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, what else is he going to say here? Like,
yeah.
Because sometimes
Thomas never finishes that clean. This is going to go sideways.
It's very off-putting for me when you do that. Okay, can you go over, and again, this one, I know you're not a big fan of talking like health questions, but we'll do our best. Can you go over treating ick with heat?
Okay, so you don't treat ick with heat. Raising the temperature can help speed up the treatment of ick, because the warmer the water is, the higher the metabolism of the ick parasite, and it speeds up their life cycle. And because they live for an extremely short period of time, I think it's like a day. I don't know how long the whole life cycle is, but they are short-lived critters. So heating up the water speeds up their metabolism, speeds up their life cycle. They die faster, but that means they also reproduce faster. So not that they're going to spread faster necessarily, but the whole idea is if you speed up the ick's life cycle, when you're treating for other things, the portion of their life cycle where they're parasitic on the fish itself will also be shorter. So you'd be removing the ick from the fish faster. But if you don't figure out, A, why your fish have ick in the first place, because ick is kind of like a symptom of a larger problem. Fish with healthy immune systems don't normally get ick. So what that should be telling you is something is wrong that's causing your fish to get ick. Something is ailing your fish, whether it's the environment, whether you just had fish shipped to you and they've had a rough ride, whether they weren't acclimated very well, or whatever the thing is, something caused your fish to get ick. So not only do you want to just raise the heat or add salt, which some people also do, you need to find out why your fish got ick so you can rectify that. Otherwise, they will just perpetually have ick. Even if you, and this is the other problem, if something caused your fish to get ick and then you treat with something like Quick Cure, which I don't even think we can get here anymore, but like a parasite medication, especially one that's caustic, now you're adding another element of stress to the fish, because something that's going to burn ick off of the fish is going to inevitably burn the fish as well. And if they're already compromised in an immune system, then you're just compounding, hardships on the fish that are going to stress it physically, and you can actually cause more harm treating that ick if you don't try to also treat whatever the heck made it get ick in the first place. I hope that all makes sense. That was one of those times I kind of just rambled.
Yeah, caught that.
And
that's more my speed now. Yeah, okay.
And I'm causing noise problems.
Where are your Big Als stores? Well, we have Big Als stores in Canada only. We have our online store in the States, bigalspets.com, but in Canada, we actually have our super centers.
Yep.
Mostly around the GTA, around Toronto.
Mississauga, Scarborough, Hamilton.
Brampton.
Yep.
What else? Where
I
else?
don't know. Barrie,
Whitby. Then we have one over in Edmonton, Ottawa. So those are our stores. But if you're in the States, unfortunately, no stores in the States as of yet. Unless you guys want to start some Big Als franchises. I mean,
yeah.
And then we can fly down there and like be there for the grand opening and live stream it. Come on.
Yeah, business opportunity for whoever wants to open a Big Als at their, in their hometown,
with the end goal of really just of meeting this guy and having him come to your store.
That would be an expensive investment. I just want to meet Thomas. I'm opening a store.
Yeah,
I am not that special. You're gonna meet me and be like, "Hey, why'd I do this?"
But if there's someone out there who's so inclined, we'll make it happen. Okay, next.
Or just pay for our flights to a fish event.
Yeah, we can do that.
We'll show up.
Like, yeah, we'll be there.
Aquaticon. I don't know if that's a thing.
That should be
a thing.
Did
I just make that up?
That's a new thing.
I don't know. Anyways.
Okay, cool. Is an FX4 or 6 too much for a 200 liter
200
tank?
liter, 3.3 divided by 200, like 70 gallon tank?
Of course I misspelled liter. 52 US liquid gallons.
I suck. Okay, 52 gallons. An FX4 in a 52 gallon tank is going to be pretty massive. Whether or not it's too much is going to depend on whether or not your fish can handle that much flow in the aquarium. If you've got like river species that like extremely high flow with heavily oxygenated water, and you set it up like a river tank where you've got flow on one end of the tank pushing directly to the other end, and you put some large stones and stuff in the way and set it up as a biotope, you'd probably be fine. Otherwise, yeah, that's a lot of filter for a 50 gallon tank. You'd have to find a way to mitigate the amount of turbulence there is in the tank with either changing how many outputs there are and putting them at various levels in the tank, or having some sort of structure that creates low pressure kind of pockets where there isn't turbulence, so the fish can actually swim around without getting whipped around the tank. You will almost never catch me saying that you can overfilter a tank. You really can't overfilter a tank. If you have more filtered than the tank needs, you just won't ever be utilizing all of it for bacteria, but you'll push off maintenance because you've got so much other mechanical and potentially chemical media in there that are going to last longer because there's so much of it. But you can 100% put too much flow on a tank. That is possible. Play it safe, kids.
Cool. Question!
Yo!
Could I add ghost shrimp to a tank with cories, platies, and rasboras? Question mark.
I've seen people do it. I don't know how long ghost shrimp live in captivity, and most ghost shrimp are sold as feeders, so they're not always in the greatest condition. But I don't see why not. I don't think they're brackish. That would be my only concern, is if they're truly a brackish fish. Invertebrate. Kids, am I right? Brains off.
Do you have tips for growing variegated anubius nanotissue cultures, tiny babies, and tips for easily obtainable inert stone to glue them on?
River rock. River rock is inert and is easy to come by. They're just smooth river pebbles. I think Fellerstone sells them. Most fish stores, like aquatics stores, pet stores, have them. They're small, they're gray, and they come in varying sizes. They work really well. I use them as accent rocks in many, many setups. So that's what I would probably use. I've used tissue cultures only a few times, and they're essentially already rooted small, very, very small, you're right, baby plants. And my only suggestion really is to make sure you clean off as much, ideally all of the gel medium that they're grown in, because having that in the tank isn't great.
Is that it? Clean it.
I think that's it.
One? Okay, fantastic.
I think that's it.
We're getting a lot of love for your shirt, by the way.
Really?
A lot of people saying
you
they
guys
love
like
the shirt.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal, guys. You all need to go to Spreadshirt.ca, or if you're in the US, Spreadshirt.com, same company, and tell them to sponsor me so that I can stop paying for these shirts. And also, that's where I get them. It's a great site. I'm plugging them for free right now. But that's where I get them, because I want you guys, because I want you guys to know where I get my shirts. I get these questions a lot. So the shirts come from Spreadshirt.ca or .com. I always do them custom. You pick the shirt you want. They have hoodies. They have all kinds of stuff. I pick t-shirts. This happens to be a slim fit one because I'm not a big guy. And
you barely exist in the physical realm.
Exactly. Yeah. And I go through the custom, and then I just type in their search engine for like their images, what I want. So I typed in beta, and there was tons of beta patterns. I picked this one. I stuck it on the shirt. I dragged it to the largest size possible, like I always do, because I like big fancy shirts. I like big prints. And yeah, and you can add text if you want and do all kinds of stuff. I've got a bunch of new shirts that you'll be seeing in the upcoming videos.
They're pretty boss.
They're snazzy.
I love them. They're really cool. So you'll see them in all our upcoming
videos. But
vids.
that's where I get them, guys. And if you'd like them, just go there and yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
And you should pressure them into...
Yes, send them emails and be like, this guy always wears your shirts. He always talks about you. Sponsor him. You're mean for not doing it.
Yeah, send him 1 million shirts. And then every video can be a new shirt.
Yeah.
Never rewear the same shirt. No. And then we can give away your shirts.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I mean, I don't know.
Because people want my sweaty shirts.
Oh, you never know.
I don't really sweat.
You never know.
But oh god,
you never know.
Oh,
next
memorabilia.
Yeah,
I'm gonna sell this on eBay when Thomas dies eventually.
You'll see like Planet Hollywood someday.
I'm not that special. All right,
no, it'd be like someone wearing it when they're eating at Planet Hollywood.
Oh,
yeah, not on display. All right, so next up. We have, Marks Aquatic.
Marks Aquatic, thank you
so much. That is awesome. That really helps us out. Hi, Thomas and Brian. I have a new 125-gallon aquarium. How do I speed up the good bacteria in the new aquarium? And what Eheim air pump do you recommend?
125 gallon. Okay, I'll start with the air pump. The air pump size is going to depend solely on what you're trying to run on the air pump. I'm assuming you have other filtration on the tank. That's going to have a lot of other oxygenation, water of the surface of the water rippling, which is all an air pump does. So the reason an air pump oxygenates water is because it's rippling or breaking the surface tension on the water. That's where all the gas exchange happens. Bubbles traveling through the water column have very little contact time and very little ability to push oxygen into the water. It is actually breaking the surface and disturbing that surface tension that creates oxygenation. So if you want to run air stones or wands or decorative air things in the tank, the size of the pump will be determined by how many of those things you're trying to run, how big they are, etc. So you really have to look into that. That's the only way to do it. There's no other way to really size a pump unless you just look at the box and it says for a 100-gallon tank. That's assuming you have no filtration or you need to oxygenate the water. In this day and age, most of us are just trying to make things look pretty. The other question about bacteria, I always recommend when you're starting off a tank to get a beneficial bacteria additive. There are tons of them out there. I've used a whole bunch of them. Seachem Stability is one of my favorites. I also really like our Big Als Biosupport. I've been using it for years, almost, 16 years, 17 years now at least.
Feel old yet?
Don't remind me. I've got crow's feet. So just follow the directions on the bottle while you're cycling the tank. And I actually go a step further and then every day add a quarter of whatever the recommended dose is for the entire aquarium. So I'll do that dose initially when I set the aquarium up and then just do a quarter of it every day until the cycle's over. You can't hurt the tank by adding more beneficial bacteria. You can only potentially speed things up. And then I also tend to enjoy using, I like it, a little bit of bacterial additive whenever I do a water change. The amount of bacteria additive I use is specific to the amount of water I've removed from the system. It's just a nice way to make sure that your bacterial cultures in the aquarium are healthy and still diverse. And yeah, there you go. Cool. And thank you for your patronage.
Indeed. Yeah, really, really helpful. Just so you guys know, we do answer questions in queue, like, as they're asked, we then go in order. But if you do super chat us, we really, really appreciate it. It does help us out, and we will get to your question right away. So just so you guys know how that works. You do have like a little crow's feet, but you're still looking pretty youthful. I just want to let you know that. 2 young kids, and I know it tends to age people. You're looking pretty young there. Young at heart.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I'm going back in my youth, trying to grow my hair super long. I've never had long hair. I want like Thor length hair.
Nice. I can't wait.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But then I got to look like this for a while still.
Yeah, you always go through that awkward stage.
I've been in that awkward stage for the last 6 months.
Yeah. Well, the longer it is, the longer the awkward stage, right?
My wife likes to bug me about it.
Yeah. Good to see you again. Good to see you too.
Yay!
What's your take on the Coralife Turbo Twist 18-watt UV sterilizer? I heard it has a corrosion problem as the inner shell is made of metal and can rust.
In salt water? Whoa. Dear Coralife, I'm telling the truth and I'm sorry. So I've used the Turbo Twist on a few years back on a 20-gallon SPS reef system that I did. Very successful system, but I had an issue that represented itself as a low nutrient issue. But I didn't have ultra low nutrients. But all the corals were pale. Polyp extension was meek. Some of the corals just, although they grew or multiplied, didn't grow at the rate they should be. And the tank just looked super pastel. And I couldn't figure out for the longest time why. I was running UV on the system. I started adding nitrate to the system to try to raise nitrate levels a little bit. I added a little bit of phosphate to the system, thinking maybe I'm just not there. I tested, and things were low, but they weren't ultra low. But I figured I'd try that. Eventually, I did some maintenance on the tank, and I'm glad I did. I pulled the UV sterilizer apart, which not many people do on a very regular basis. It's not a piece of equipment that you really have to clean out often. But I figured I'd do a full system cleaning, see if I could figure something out. That sleeve, that metal sleeve, stainless steel, I believe it is, had rusted quite badly. Quite badly. So what I did to rectify that, obviously I discontinued using that UV sterilizer, just took it off the system. I did contact Coralife. They did say they knew it was an issue, so on and so forth. They were looking for a fix for it or whatever. And they mentioned it's stainless steel and it shouldn't be rusting. Well, newsflash, stainless steel still rusts in salt water. Stainless steel, not like impenetrable salt-proof steel.
Vibranium or something.
Yeah. Titanium vibranium!
Captain America uses this
Exactly. Amazing, yeah. His shield is made out of UV sterilizer sleeves. Yes. So I just continued using it. I used, what was it? Two Little Fish's Metazorb, which is a fairly pricey little product, but it works extremely well. It's not poorly priced. It just seems expensive for what it is, but it got all of the metals out of the system, all of them. And in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, I had insane improvement in the tank. I went from having a tank that looked like something was obviously not going perfect to SPS growing like crazy, coloring up. The zoanthids grew in size, physical size. They opened up much bigger than they had been. They weren't so pastel. The tank changed entirely. So that was obviously the issue. So yes, it is a problem. If you have a freshwater tank, I wouldn't be concerned, but if you have saltwater, it is an issue. Now, the reason they even put that in there...
Yeah, why would that's what I was wondering. Why even do it?
Yes, it's because the stainless steel reflects the UV light back into the actual UV sterilizer, and it prevents it from degrading the plastic case at all, but also it's more efficient to keep those UV rays bouncing through the water instead of just leaking out.
Okay.
Being absorbed by the plastic.
Right.
So that is why. That is why it's in there. Not a great design. I hope they changed it, and if they didn't, then I hope people stop using them on saltwater tanks. Again, Coral Life, I'm sorry. Not sorry.
You should be sorry. Why would you do that?
Yeah, why would you do that?
Gosh. Darn. Okay, anyway, next up, hi you two. Hi. I have set up my first tank. Awesome! Yay! And I'm trying to do a fishless cycle in a 10-gallon tank.
Cool.
My filter has indicated it needs a new cartridge, but I was wondering if it would damage the cycle. Good question.
Well, what filter do you have? The cartridge itself shouldn't really hold a ton of bacteria unless it is the only... If it's like an all-in-one cartridge that the biomedia is also a part of, which I've never seen, but I'm sure it happens, then yeah, you would be damaging the cycle by removing that entirely. If the biological media is separate of that, it may, in a very small way, hinder the cycle. But look, long story short is if your filter is not going to overflow, right? If I know a lot of filters these days have indicators on them to tell you when the flow's backing up because the cartridge is becoming plugged up. If it's not going to overflow the filter onto your floor, then you can just leave it until the cycle's over. Otherwise, what you can do instead of replacing it, which I never recommend normally, but in this case I will, take some water out of the aquarium, a very small portion of water, take that cartridge and shake the living bejesus out of it in that bucket and dislodge as much of the gunk that is plugging up the cartridge that is telling you to change it out.
What is Bob Ross saying? I'm going to beat the devil out of it.
Yeah, beat the devil out of it.
Yeah.
And then put it back in. If the indicator isn't popping up due to the amount of flow that has changed in the filter or the backing up of the filter chamber with water, and it's just a time... like I think Tetra has these ones where you just like press it and over time the ink travels up like a little indicator, and once it goes to the top it's been 30 days.
Oh.
If it's that, you can just throw that in the garbage and ignore it. And then once your tank is cycled, you can then take that cartridge and chuck it and put a new one in, give it a few days, make sure your tank is still, and then go get some fish.
Nice. Okay, Luis Martinez.
Thank you!
Luis Martinez, thank you so much. Again, really, really helps us out.
It's people like you that make me wear these shirts.
Indeed. Hello. I have a bed of fish and I have pretty hard water.
Okay.
So I got an RO unit. Is equilibrium enough to replenish the necessary nutrients in the water?
Absolutely should be. I personally use Replenish by Cichlid. It's a liquid, and it's very easy to control how much is going in. There's a little chart on the back that says this amount of water per this many caps or this volume will raise your general hardness by X amount. So it's very easy to figure out. Like I have at my house an axolotl, and they like a specific amount of hardness in the water, and my water is pretty gross coming out of the well. So I use RODI water for everything, even the planet tanks, and I always have to add some hardness back, especially for things like axolotls that need it, and other fish. You don't really want to use RO water straight. So yeah, I add some Replenish, and it works really, really well. It's very easy to do. It mixes in very easy because it's not, I think Equilibrium's a powder. This doesn't have to dissolve. It's already dissolved. It's very quick. So I personally use replenish. I'm sure equilibrium would work just fine as well.
So you should be in good shape. Luis, thank you so much. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, next up. Oh, someone, by the way, said that they used to have long hair and they don't recommend it. It sucked. Just so you know. I mean, you got to figure these things out yourself. I know. You got to kind of go through it.
Here's the thing. I've always wanted to have long hair, and I never stuck through it. Never once. If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And I have a feeling that I will get there and not stay there for super long. I might for a while and then just be like, screw it, and then cut all my hair off. It could happen. But if I don't make it there, then I gave up. Yeah. And I don't want to give up.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you don't like it, you shave it off, you donate it so they can make a wig out of it, or something, and then someone will be wearing your hair somewhere.
Oh, do you think we could auction it off?
Oh man, that would be so weird.
Along with one of the shirts?
Yes.
Oh, we'll get a hat and they'll glue it on the inside of the hat so they can wear the hat and the shirt and they just be me.
A legit Thomas costume.
And we got to get the beard too.
Yeah, a legit Thomas costume. All right, well we'll look into that in what, a year when your hair reaches the ultimate length. Or?
Yeah, maybe. This is the creepiest.
This is gonna be like no one does it. I buy it.
You would.
I would, yeah. I was you for Halloween.
That's true. Oh, I missed the boat on that. I should have been you. I had the thought, and I just
didn't follow through. Yeah, well, failed. I did.
Oh, well.
Next up, how do you set up a sump? What filter media do you recommend for a 55-gallon sump? We talked about this a couple weeks ago in one of our streams.
Yeah, so setting up a sump is kind of a... Here. I'm going to generalize. Your tank has to be sump ready, so it's got to have overflows, drilled holes, and all that, or you have to buy a hang-on overflow system of some kind to hook up to the sump. The way a sump works is you have a box of water, the sump, underneath your aquarium, and that is full. Your aquarium is also full, and the sump is constantly pumping water from itself via a return pump up to the aquarium, filling the aquarium up to the point that it can't take any more water without it overflowing through the overflow system back down to the sump. So one of the big benefits of that is you never have evaporation in the aquarium. It happens down in the sump because we're always filling the tank back up, so it can't evaporate from there. We're always pumping water into it. So it'll always evaporate from the pump section of the sump. So that said, the type of sump you buy, the layout of it is going to be entirely up to your preference. It's one of the nice things about sumps is they're all relatively similar. They've got baffling systems in them, so you can add things in different chambers. Also, so if you're doing saltwater and you have micro bubbles entering the sump from the display, or you've got a protein skimmer that's allowing some micro bubbles to leave it, they will dissipate before they get to the pump and go back up to the tank, so you're never pumping bubbles up into the tank. But long story short, it is a blank slate. So it's like a BYOB party. Bring your own booze. Except for the booze is filter media. So you can do whatever you want. You can put your equipment down there. You can hide your heaters down there. You can put protein skimmers. You can add media reactors. You can pick whatever biological media you like, shove that down there. Chemical media, same thing. Like, it is so completely customizable and also has the dramatically amazing benefit of keeping all of that equipment off of the outside and out of the inside of the display. So the display is just the habitat. You don't have any equipment obstructing it on the outside. You have no equipment obstructing it on the inside, and it is just beautiful. And then, yeah, that's like the rundown on sumps, why you want one. And because the other thing is it adds a ton of extra water volume to the system. So if you have a 90-gallon tank, you could get like a 30-gallon sump, and now your system is effectively 120 gallons if the sump holds 30 gallons of water. So you have extra wiggle room in terms of dilution. So whatever waste your fish are producing, they're producing it in 130 gallons or 120 gallons of water rather than just 90 gallons of water. So, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of sumps, fresh or salt. I love it. My 265 that we did in Ontario, that was a sump. Couldn't not do it. That was a big tank. Sump.
All right. Good day from Australia. Good day.
Good day, mate.
Hi. This is not the same person, just a different person. Hi from Australia. Can goldfish have a planted tank? Mine keep eating the plants.
No.
They will keep eating the plants. They'll continue to do so.
They're like lawnmowers. They're great herbivores. They will just keep eating it. What some people do is they'll grow duckweed on the surface of the water because it reproduces very quickly. Goldfish have a hard time getting all of it, and it grows back very fast. So it's like perpetually helps to feed them. It'll also help absorb nutrients from the water, and goldfish are waste machines, so that's not a bad thing. So duckweed people will often put in with goldfish, but you could try anubius. They still might, they're really good at eating plants. Anubius might live. I would try anubius. I wouldn't bother with anything else. That's just me.
Okay. Next up, best way for pressurized CO2.
To get a pressurized CO2 system. Next.
Oh, wow, that was easy. Very simple.
Best way for pressurized CO2. Okay. I'll interpret that as the absolute like pinnacle of setting up CO2. In my opinion, that would be a compressed CO2 tank with a good regulator, visual bubble counter, solenoid on it, and then on top of that, use a pH controller. So you can actually dial in the precise pH you want the tank to stay at. The controller will turn the CO2 on and off to make sure the pH never falls below or gets above the set pH that you have, because it'll turn the CO2 on if it starts to get too high and turn the CO2 off if it begins to get too low. So you'll float right in the range you want to be in. And that is ultimately like the most stable way to constantly have the correct amount of CO2 in the system without worry of CO2 overdosing at night. You don't have to turn this, like use a solenoid to turn the system off completely at night. You can still allow the pH controller to decide whether or not it needs more or less CO2, because it's going to do it on its own. The only thing is there's more maintenance, because now you've got a pH probe that you're going to have to calibrate ideally every month. And it's quite a bit more expensive, because a good pH controller can be upwards of $200 or $300. So it's really what you want to do. It takes the system from being like a simple pressurized CO2 system, can be as simple as a regulator and a drop checker and whatever you have in the tank as far as a diffuser. The diffuser, there's lots of different ways to do it, and they all work relatively well. So, but yeah, I digress. That is like the pinnacle of CO2 dosing, in my opinion, for pressurized CO2. I am more likely, however, because it's more economical, to not use a pH, and it's less maintenance, to not use a pH controller, just use a timer on a good regulator with a solenoid so it shuts off at night, and then dial in the CO2 precisely, not for a specific bubble count, but rather so that my drop checker is always the correct color, indicating a stable pH right where you would expect it to be for an aquarium, so you're not killing your fish and or starving your plants of CO2. Takes longer, a little bit more finicky. You have to check back on it often, but more economical.
Best UV sterilizer for freshwater, 55 gallon, with a minimum of 300 gallon per hour flow filter. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Open up your mind and let us in.
Sterilizer. I'm trying to think of. I'm going to be honest. I almost never use CO2. I almost never use UV. Kids. I almost never use. I'm just going to blame them from now on. I almost never use UV. But Aqua Ultraviolet is a really good brand. I really like. They have solid UV sterilizers. They work very, very well, and you can actually get them high enough that they will sterilize at 300 gallons per hour. It takes a lot of wattage to sterilize versus to clarify. So clarifying is just the removal of algae, so green water, and sterilizing is the removal of essentially everything else, including microorganisms that could get your fish sick. Aqua Ultraviolet is probably one of my favorite brands, followed by, who makes Aquascape, which is a pond company. I think they're a Canadian-based pond company. They do like water features and stuff. I believe they also have UV sterilizers, and I would trust just about anything out of Aquascape. They make wicked products too. So both of those.
Sweet. Next up is, can I keep a single Lake Victorian African cichlid in a 20-gallon tank for its whole life?
I wouldn't.
Okay.
I just 20 gallons, not a lot of volume for African cichlids. Even some of the smaller species that stay very small. Like maybe if you have like a few shellies, like shell dwellers, that would probably be all right. Maybe even for lupi, I don't know. I would go bigger. I would personally, if you're going to do Africans at all, go to 55 gallons. You will appreciate it.
Cool.
And if you're gonna go for like zebras and stuff, or Jacob for Burguy, what are you? A peacocks. If you go for peacocks at all, you want to go bigger than that. Like my minimum for Africans in my brain is really about 90 gallons, and going up from there is a lot better. You can stock more fish. They'll have more room. They won't make the tank dirty as quickly. And a lot of these fish are going to get pretty sizable as adults. So the bigger you go, the better. So 90 is a real minimum for me. If you're going to keep smaller species, 55 can work. But if you want to do Africans, just go all the way. If you want small cichlids for a 20 gallon, look at, ooh, what's really pretty. You could do, oh, what are they called? I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Apistogrammas.
You got it.
Sorry, Brian.
That's it. Yeah.
Do apistos. They're awesome. Okay, we're good.
All right, sweet. Just wanted that visual confirmation for you. Yeah, move on. I want to get one of those like chess timers, like, you know, I flip it to you and then you hit it, you answer your question, you hit it back to me, and then I know when it's time to.
I like it.
Okay, no problem.
We should do that for the lightning round.
That's a really good idea. Okay, can CChem stability be added to a tank with fish to assist in adding good beneficial bacteria?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes,
that's what it does.
that's its whole gig. Yeah, that's the.
With fish, without fish, you're not going to hurt them. You're adding beneficial bacteria to the water. You can do it. Go for it.
How long would you suggest keeping molly fry separated before introducing them to the rest of the tank?
They have to be big enough that the fish are not going to try to eat them. I like to wait until they're at least 3/4 of an inch. That's a pretty good size for them to not get picked on. A lot of people will just allow the fry to kind of just exist in the tank, and whatever fry survive, and whatever doesn't. I have nothing against that. Survival of the fittest, totally okay. And then obviously whatever fry survive are the best fry out of the batch in terms of survival.
Survive.
For
some reason, you did that on purpose.
I do often make up stupid words. So survivaling. That's it. Forget it.
Yeah.
That's I meant it. Survivaling. Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Let's go forth to the next question before I come up with another stupid word.
Hey man, my neon tetra jumped out of the tank. Is that normal?
It's normal if your neon tetra was getting chased. Otherwise, no. They shouldn't be jumping out of the tank. If it was the only neon tetra in the tank, I'm not surprised. They like to school, and they often do best in groups of like 10 or more.
So not normal.
Sorry your fish jumped out of the tank. Yeah. That sucks.
Hopefully they don't keep doing that.
But I would assume something was chasing it. Fish don't usually jump unless something is instigating it to try to escape.
Yeah, it might be its best chance of surviving.
Exactly.
So it thinks.
Okay. They're not aware that they're about to jump out of the water.
Yes, yeah.
When they trust me, like every fish that's ever jumped out of the tank, when it hit the carpet, went, "Da crap!"
Yeah.
Like every time, this did not turn out how I expected. Carpet surfing is not what they had intended, or hardwood surfing, whatever is on the floor of choice.
Can I put neon tetras with a female betta?
No, I wouldn't do it. Okay. I probably wouldn't do it. Female bettas they're pretty good, but I don't like keeping bettas in general with any fish that are small and or fragile. It's not great. I would do something that is much more likely to be able to stay away from a female betta or a male betta in general. Things like zebra danios, they're very swift, they're very hardy. White clouds are pretty swift, also very hardy. Something that is going to be able to get away that is not sensitive. Best case scenario. In my opinion, you probably can keep them with them. There's a pretty good chance things will go okay. There's a much better chance that zebra danios will go just fine. So I like to play it safe.
Be safe out there. This is just a general comment, Thomas. Because of you, I started the fish thing and start with 110 gallon, which is 600 liters. You guys are amazing.
I would high five you.
Bam! Awesome.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, that
makes
nice.
My day.
That's always nice to hear.
That's why I do this. I love the hobby. I've loved it my entire life since being a very little kid. I was probably 7 when the first aquarium entered my life, and I've never looked back since. And I love sharing it with other people, so it makes me ecstatic to hear that somebody else is enjoying the hobby too. Awesome! And an awesome tank to start with.
Yeah.
Bold move.
Yeah, ambitious. I like it. Yeah.
I can respect that.
Didn't want to mess around. Just wants to like dive right in. Yeah.
Let's do this.
Both feet. My electric blue ram male is chasing my female. I bought them about 3 months ago. 1 week after I got them, they bred. So I don't know why he's chasing her. Any idea what the problem might be?
Maybe
from Squishy Fishy, which I like that name.
That's an awesome name. Yeah. It's entirely possible that he wants to breed more and she doesn't. That's one reason. Man, my chickens do that all the time. Those roosters never stop.
Nature, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would assume that that's probably what's going on. If they've been fine this entire time and they've bred together, and maybe he's feeling ready and she's not there yet, and therefore she doesn't want to be near him. That's my guess. I don't know. Fish relationships, man.
Yeah. Can't read their minds.
Nah. I wish I could. That'd be a good skill. It's like parcel tongue, but for fish.
Yes.
Pisces tongue.
We should like just film one of the aquariums one of these days with a fish and just like narrate.
Oh, that would be amazing. That's a great short. Let's do a short.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll put that out there for you guys. Okay, we'll do a couple more. We're running out of racetrack here. How many neon tetras for a 10-gallon tank?
For a 10-gallon?
10 gal.
I would cap it at about a dozen, and that's your 10-gallon stock right there.
Okay, 1 dozen.
Yeah, I mean, 10 gallons not a ton of space, but they feel more comfortable in groups, so they should be fine. Just I wouldn't put anything else in with them, really. 10 gallons not a ton of space, like I said, so they'll probably be okay with each other. I would also recommend, if you can, just plant it. Like, put a bunch of easy plants. Anubius, Java fern. You could put some valves in there if you want. They're going to grow out of that tank like crazy, but give them a nice little habitat to zip around in, and they should be quite comfy. And yeah, just feed them regularly and keep them happy. But if you can, if you're not married to a 10-gallon and you want to do neons, a dozen in a 20 long would be a lot better.
Cool. We'll do just a couple more here. I have a gold barb. Every time after the feeding, he struggles to swim to the bottom. When not feeding, no problems. Feed it flake food or bloodworms or what is it? Dr. Baslier.
Dr. Baslier?
Is it actually Doctor? Okay, sure. Is he sick?
Is he eating off the surface and swallowing air? Is it a swim bladder issue? I don't know.
Yeah,
I would have to see that.
I'm going to link that to our support team in there. So email photos, some video even of the behavior, some info on what you're feeding,
parameters in your tank, all the basics.
Yeah, and then they can they'll sort of divert your question to the people who are going to be able to answer that question after seeing everything firsthand. And you never know, maybe even I'll get looped back to Thomas in the email chain. He can help you, but just more info is needed, I guess.
Yep.
Okay. Hello. Is it possible to keep Neocaridina and Caridina in the same tank? What's the impact?
Not a shrimp expert. I don't rightly know. I'm going to straight up say I have no idea.
That's good. Yeah.
I'm not a shrimp guy.
You should say that.
Not to say I won't keep shrimp or I haven't kept shrimp, but I haven't played with them enough and set up enough tanks with them in it to be able to say for sure. What I can say is I have kept a mono shrimp a lot. Like the green Amano shrimp or just your standard Amano shrimp, many times in planted tanks. They're awesome. I love them. I haven't really kept the dwarf shrimp species much at all yet, which I may have to, just so I have more practical experience with them. But yeah, I don't want to mislead you. I have no clue.
Yeah, that's probably smart. But again, if you can't find the answer you're looking for, email our support team.
And you can even direct it to me, and I'll go do some research for you and find out.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk. We have a lot of aquatics enthusiasts and experts within the organization that Thomas can always call up and ask some questions as well and learn some new stuff. So definitely email our support email our support address with anything like that. Guys, that does about do it, though. We are at time. Another fun stream. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you guys all for coming out. We really appreciate all you guys that, those of you who come out every single stream. We do this every 2 weeks, every other Saturday we do this. So there's some people that show up every single time. We really do appreciate that. For those of you who are new here or, you know, just catching it for your very first time, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome to the shenanigans that is our very candid Q&A.
Yeah, very casual, laid back. But yeah, really thank you. We do appreciate you guys coming out and asking your questions. I do want to say for the next time, if you are able to come out in 2 Saturdays from now, the more punctual you are, the more likely it is we'll be able to get to your question. We do go in order.
Yep.
So get here at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ask your question right away, and more chances that we'll actually be able to get to it.
Yeah. Brian usually takes questions that are there even if we haven't started streaming yet. So if you're the first one to leave your question at the top, we usually go through those first, right?
Yeah, best way to do it for you guys. Again, if
you just super chat.
Yeah, if you don't want that, that is a great way to support us and make sure we can keep putting out these streams and other content. Super chat helps us a lot. Speaking of supporting us, check out bigalspets.com. If you are in need of filters, heaters, anything for your aquarium, fish food, whatever.
Everything. Yeah. Specialty items. Yeah. Regular items.
Yes. Check bigalspets.com, because again, the more you guys support us there, the more we're going to be able to do a lot of really, really awesome content.
Help us prove to our superiors that our channel is doing something for them.
Please. Yes. Yes. That would be a huge help.
They know, but yeah.
We have a lot of really, really awesome projects upcoming, by the way, a lot of awesome video series. And again, the more people support us, the more likely the higher-ups are willing to give Thomas a bunch of really cool stuff to make videos with.
Yes.
So definitely support us there. We really appreciate all you guys do. Really just sharing our stuff and showing up for us and viewing our videos, liking our videos. Yep. It all helps. So,
and speaking of giving back, we're going to have a really awesome giveaway coming up when we get to our absolutely ridiculous, crazy goal of 100,000 subscribers, which
we're just shy of 80 right now. I think we're like we're a couple days away from 80,000.
I'm like anxious and on pins and needles, and like I can't believe how far we've come in the last few years.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Like, to me, my mind is blown.
Yeah.
But we've got something really special planned. I'm working my little tail off to try to have a just crazy giveaway for you guys. So what would really help get that off the ground is just like and share our videos and tell your friends and your family and your fish clubs and everybody that this channel exists and that you enjoy it, and get them on board so we can hit that goal and I can give some stuff away.
So much stuff. We're giving away so much stuff. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, we're everything's in the works right now. So once we hit that goal, we're going to launch it and give you guys free things.
Yay!
So nothing wrong with that. So again, thank you guys so much. I'm just going to do this because I want to take a selfie with the audience, even though they're not actually here. Hey guys, here we go for more or less. I can't do it.
Brian's new.
There we go. It's a lot to fit in there. Post that. That one's for the old Instagrams there. Awesome. Cool. So guys, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate all you guys do. With that said, I have nothing more to add. You?
Just that you guys got to keep on tanking with us on Q&As and everything else.